All right.
Awesome. Hey everyone, another weekly sync. We are past halfway, I believe.
Yeah.
Or like coming into like the 5th week, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. Going by so fast.
I know.
Yeah. How's everyone feeling? Good.
Good. I feel like it just started.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Well, let's kick us off with some demos. We'll start with Jordan and Mandy, if that's okay. Hopefully Shalom can join in a little bit. I just sent her a message. So yeah, I'll let Mandy and Jordan kick us off.
Do you want to demo the first part, like, or the second part?
I need to pull up our branch. Do you want to demo the code and I can do the application? Or which one goes first, actually?
Usually like the application, right?
Has the code been merged? You could probably just use the production link then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. But yeah, which one do you prefer, Mandy? Do you want to? You can start off if you want. I just need to pull up the stuff on my side.
Okay, yeah. I'll get the application open. One sec. And grab our deploy link.
Hey, Shalom.
How's it going? Just thinking about sharing. There we go. All right, I'm also opening up our issue for me. All right, so our acceptance criteria was to, we're 7, right? Yeah, not 6. So when you're at the list view and there's no items to display, the window should show a prompt or a button for the user to add their first item. And here's how the wireframe looks for that. So basically this prompt right here is what we're working on adding in. And also creating the ability to have an empty list. So let me delete my token here. All right, so now I create a fresh list. It's empty, and you can see we've got an add item button showing. We go ahead and add some Halloween candy to our list. We get a little prompt. Go back to our list view. And there's our candy. Any questions before we move on to the code portion?
Was the prompt just to let the user know that it was successful?
No, it's just basically it's just a button saying that your list doesn't have anything in it, because once it has an item, the button goes away.
You had a prompt that came up after you added candy.
Oh yeah, that was part of I think a previous edition. So like you're talking about this one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so it is just confirmation that the item was added. Okay.
Yeah, because before there really wasn't anything. The form would clear, but it just didn't seem like anything happened, I think, on the user side. So we just added a prompt, a basic one. Not sure that we'll keep that long term. I think it's not the greatest UI, but anything else before I pass it off to Jordan? Okay. All right.
All right, let me share my screen. Cool. All right. So for the first part, I think the first change.
We lost your audio.
Yeah.
I love the little pause where everyone's like, is it just me or did someone else
Yeah.
lose
Yeah.
their audio too?
I checked my AirPods. I was like,
All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
So I just updated my Mac to the new Mojave, and I think this is like a bug that I'm getting from it, but I'm not sure. All right. So, anyways, the first change we made was in create list button. So when you create your first list, we have it redirect to the list, and before it was redirecting to add item. So that enables you, when you first create your list, but you have empty item. Now it will basically check if your list.length, and the list is basically the query that we're querying the database to bring back everything that has that token. So we're querying if it's anything less than 2, and if it is less than 2, then it'll show like a little button to say like add item. If it's greater than 2, which means that you have items in your list, it'll map through each of them. I think the reason why we have less than 2 right now is because like when you first create that list, it adds it as an entry to the database, which I know we were talking before, which may not be ideal, but that's kind of the logic behind why we have less than 2 right now. So,
What are the 2 items in that list array then?
So right now, right now it would just be, I guess that one item with the token. Is that right, Mandy?
Yeah, basically because the query is querying on the user token, like a match for it. So the first item, because it's a NoSQL database, is just the user token. And then when they add an item, it's the user token plus all of the other information about the item that they added.
Okay. I think logically saying greater than 1 might make more like logical sense of like if the one item is the token and then anything above that is considered an active list. Because I mean that even after as you explained that to me, it took a minute for my brain to wrap around that you need that second item that was added in order to equal the 2 versus just it's seeded with the token as a single, one item, and then anything beyond that is items we've added.
Right. Okay.
That's good feedback.
So I know, Mandy, we talked a little bit about this in our office hours together, but what did you two, both you and Jordan, think about my comment around this being a data structure issue, not necessarily a database query issue?
I would agree. But we didn't think we had time to incorporate new changes this week. So
Perfectly makes sense.
that's something we wanted to talk about, but I don't want to take away from retro time necessarily to cover it in depth.
Yeah,
Although that's
I think
something we could talk about in retro.
it's true.
Yeah, I mean, you're the leader.
We definitely wanted to bring in like feedback from our other teammates and the mentors as well before we made changes on our side that would mess things up. But yeah. Yeah, I think that's it for that logic. And then I think the only I made some changes we made changes earlier in the week to fix like a bug that was like creating tokens. So there was some logic that we went through to fix that. We also, the biggest win for the week was learning that if you create a function that starts with a use, React thinks it's a hook. So I my mind was like blown. You know, I was hitting that air. I'm like, I have no idea what's going wrong because it's the exact same flow that I was doing with other functions. So I don't know why it's not accepting. But so appreciate
Yeah,
the comments on that.
I learned that as well.
Going crazy.
I hadn't had a chance to look at it yet, and I saw your comment, and I was like, yes, custom hooks are amazing, but then also you then can no longer use that as your name unless you're actually creating a hook.
Yeah, lesson learned.
It's awesome. Love that. Love the lesson learned.
Right?
Yeah. Anything else? Good. Any questions that people have?
No,
Okay.
I think all in all, I'm following you.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
well done. And I think, yeah, a good chance to have the database or data structure discussion. Could be retro, could also just be like asynchronously in the Slack channel as well. You get feedback. Cool. Well, let's pass it over to Tima and Shalom.
All right, I'll start off sharing my screen. Can everyone see it fine?
Mhm.
Okay, so the issue that we worked with this week was as a user, I want to be alerted when I'm entering an item that is the same as something already on my list so I can avoid duplicate items. And the acceptance criteria are to show an error message if the user tries to submit a new item that has the exact same name as the existing item. To show an error message if the user tries to submit a new item that has the same name as an existing item where the capitalization has been normalized and punctuation has been removed. The user's original input should be what gets saved in the database. Something else that I want to add that we did for the second part was we also took into consideration spaces and other special characters and emojis.
Nice.
And so if we were to add an item that's already on the list, like lemon. Then we get an alert that says item is already in your list. And if I add any punctuation, same alert. Let me try adding an emoji. And also like adding spaces too. And then if you go back to the list, you can confirm that they weren't added.
Can you confirm that if you were to add like with capital letters? I mean, I'm assuming, and then also
Yeah.
So then I see that you have a capital C on your coffee, so it still honors the original text that the user put in. So even if they put underscores and so forth, like that's what we'll print. If you added an item and you said, I don't know, taco underscore sauce, would it keep that underscore when it printed?
So since it has the word sauce in it, it would add. Oh, it would actually, yeah, like this, right? So in the list, it should have that underscore. Oops.
I'm
gonna click add to list.
It's the other.
Oh,
button.
oops. So it's like it got added successfully.
Okay.
and- Yeah, so the original input has the underscore in it.
Interesting. I added
It,
twice though.
it is in there twice.
Yeah. Wonder if there's like a clicking.
Oh. Let me see. So in the database, I'm just gonna double check how the item name normalized was saved for this.
My art live code reviews fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it got added twice because
Um,
I'm gonna try deleting these and then
Mhm.
doing it again.
Yeah, you had to click the confirm prompt twice, so it's almost like it, I don't know, tripped it up somehow.
Oh, that's right. So I clicked on it, but it doesn't look like the alert came up.
Hmm.
Oh, there you go. There's taco sauce.
And there's just been some kind of weird hiccup.
Yeah, it's right here. I'm not sure if like pressing the other button and then going back to pressing the,
That's what I'm wondering, if you did the add to list. Yeah, like if somehow, I'm not sure why that would have made a difference.
because
It
after
was
I did,
interesting that it didn't clear the item name when you selected the add item again.
Mhm.
Feel like that form seems like it would have wanted to clear itself. Because technically reloaded the page.
Yeah, if you try and add an item, like type something in there and then hit soon and then hit the add item link, will it let you? Because it didn't seem like it would even let you forward to the next page.
like if so,
Because I see
click
list
this
came,
one, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know why it wouldn't let you navigate while the form's incomplete, but that's weird.
Interesting. Maybe there should be a bug / investigation afterwards. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's,
Mm.
that's kind of an interesting find.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah. That's an interesting find.
Because you would want to
Do you
be
wanna
able to abandon the form, as a user.
Yeah, if you were
Maybe
just
start
like,
and
oh
then you
wait,
don't.
do I already have that on there? Like, and you don't realize it's going to check it for you. You might want to, I don't know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
navigate back. I mean, I guess technically going to add item, you're on the same page. It's just interesting that the form didn't reload.
Yeah, is that something like we would want to happen if like we're on this page already and then we click it again, have it reload?
It's not in any of the acceptance criteria. I'd
Yeah, I was
say
gonna
it's a
say, I
gut
mean,
call. Yeah.
I don't know that it hurts to have the form stay the way it is, but if it's causing a bug or a hiccup, then you'd want to clear it.
Yeah. Should we move on to the code walkthrough, just so we have time for the retro as well?
Oh yeah, Shalom's gonna go through the code.
Awesome. Well done. Live demos.
Yeah, it
always
looks
fun.
great. And I just, the underscore check was just to make sure that the user's input was what displays versus the stripped version. So
Mhm.
nice.
Hey everyone, can you guys see my
Sure.
screen?
Sure can.
Yeah, sorry about earlier. I was having issues with my audio,
No,
but it's working now, so yay. Okay, so let me get rid of this. So what we did with the code was we added, and so originally it was just saving this right here, just the item name was what was being saved to the database. But what we added is we added a function to normalize the value and also saved an item name normalized to the database. So with each item that's created, both the original name and the normalized name is saved to the database. And what we did was we actually, as per the comment on the and feedback as well, we created a normalized value helper function. And what that function basically does is it checks for punctuation using regex, and then also checks for emojis. And once we have these two variables, we are basically taking the value that the user entered, which is the original input, and then lowercasing it and then replacing it with the punctuation removed and the emojis removed. So basically it's going to save a normalized version of it, of the item name. So that way we can basically, when the item is submitted, we can check if if it's in the database by passing in the normalized name. So basically we're going to check that using this query right here. We actually check for two things. We check that it's the correct user token. So we're not checking all the database, just the one that lines up with that user token. And then we're checking that the item name normalized that's saved in the database is the same as the normalized version of what the user just entered. And if that's the case, then it's already in the database and we just display this alert right here. And if not, then we'll go ahead and add the item. So yeah, so that's basically what we added, just this function to normalize the name and then check for that normalized version in the database. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if you guys have any
Awesome, well done.
questions or.
No, I like that approach versus iterating over the whole list every time to check for just the one item. It's kind of nice that you can just search for, like, yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense, but it feels a little bit more, especially with the structure you currently have, because like there could be 15 lemons in your database with 15 different lists. And so this is kind of a really nice way to just go into that list and look for that normalized value.
Right, right. Yeah, we weren't entirely sure if this was the best approach to save another, save both the original and the normalized version of the name, but it seemed to be kind of the most efficient approach. So yeah, I just went with that.
Yeah,
Nice.
well done. I just had one thought on that duplicate error that was happening before. I was wondering if a race condition happened, like maybe we need to like disable the submit button because it may have tried to submit twice, and because it happened so fast, the handle, the is item in database check probably didn't resolve properly. But yeah, that's just a thought, but we can take that offline. I'm not sure if that makes sense.
Actually makes
Maybe
sense.
April.
That makes sense that would have been the case, especially since you're storing, as you store the item, you're storing the normalized, and then on the next check, you would check against that normalized. And if they're both hitting the database at essentially the same time, it would not have been able to have seen that it was already there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this is awesome. Thank you, both pairs. Great demos. I'm excited to see this app like progressing. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll leave it. April.
Awesome. Let's go for it. All right. So as I posted in Slack, I wanted to start our retro just by taking a quick look back at what we wanted to try to focus on this last week. So if we share my screen here. Actually, I don't need to share my screen on this one. So last week when we talked about things that we wanted to improve, it was mentioned that we wanted to be able to communicate more clearly, as well as think more about the edge cases, and then find ways to make it a little easier to schedule around time zone differences and so forth. So I just wanted to touch base with y'all on how you felt this week went in regards to kind of those three items, the communication piece, the scheduling piece, as well as the edge case piece.
I can go first. In regards to like communication, we met up like first thing on Monday evening, all of us, and kind of like just like went through both issues as like a team, and really like had our subtask list. So I think it was a good combo of like what we've done in the past, plus like kind of having our own time to kind of like, you know, talk as like a whole group before we dove in. So I thought that went really well.
Nice. Did you find that that was helpful as you moved forward with the issues, kind of having a clearer understanding from both issues of what everybody was going to be working on, to kind of focus your work?
I think it was. I think it like, especially it was just like important to kind of like sync as like a team, instead of like always just being like paired off together. So I feel like it kind of helped everyone be like on the same page, just like at the current status of the app and like what, you know, what's going to happen or what each team's going to be building out. So.
Nice.
To-
Does anybody have, go ahead, Fatima.
To add on about like meeting up with all four of us at the beginning. I think it's like nice having everyone like on the same page and going through both the issues. And I think on the long run, like by the end of the project, it's like it's gonna help us like have a better picture of it at the end when we're like involved with each of the issues.
Right.
And I think it helps us like at the beginning of the week, like have like a clear direction
Right.
at the start. Yeah.
Great. How about, so that kind of helped with like the communication and time zone piece-ish somewhat then? Feeling like you kind of had a little bit more, did it provide to you, I guess, a little bit more of that asynchronous knowledge that would allow you to maybe do a little bit of work outside of, even if it's just thought work, your pair sessions?
And I feel like Jordan and I align pretty well time zone wise, so it's less of an issue when we're paired. We're available around the same times, and yeah, the subtask list, the intention there is to enable some of that. So we might get through a little bit together, and then we'll agree before we get off our pairing session about, you know, what each person's going to do next.
Okay.
So for us, it works pretty well, I guess.
And then within those sublists, I know, Fatima, you were mentioning that maybe thinking outside of just the acceptance criteria when you were kind of trying to plan forward on a thing that could be a spot where those edge cases could be addressed. Did you find that that was something that happened or that didn't happen, and that good or bad or otherwise with that?
At the beginning of the week, we talked about looking for edge cases. I think for myself, like I'm not really very experienced with like finding edge cases. We tried to like think of like different ways to test, like for our issue, just different ways to test it.
Awesome. All right, well, let's move into this week then, and just as a whole. And, you know, I guess kind of bring out some of the highlights or shout outs mentions that you'd like to address for things that want, that you wanted to highlight from the week?
I really appreciate Jordan identifying the issue with the duplicate token and getting it solved super quickly. We kind of noodled over it together, and then he just banged out a solution.
Nice.
Afterwards was awesome.
Awesome.
Definitely a team effort on that though, but thank you.
So we laid it to rest, and he was like, "Wait, no, I see it." When you leave a bug, and suddenly you can envision the fix, and you had to go and fix it. And I admire that. I like it.
Nice.
Yeah, I would say shout out to like the mentors like Jonathan and Graham, just for like helping resolve that like React hook like error. Something I've never seen. Like I was like researching, didn't find anything that was like helpful to me. So I appreciate you like commenting on like GitHub and like keeping things up to date on like the PR requests.
Well, I'm going to add my shout out that kind of piggybacks on that, which is really great job to y'all for getting your work up so that there was time for Jonathan and Graham to take a look at that and help you through those hiccups. It's really helpful for us as well, as we kind of find time within our schedule that when you have those up there by like Thursday, Friday-ish, it gives us that little window of time to go in and take a peek and see what we see.
100%.
And Graham, he spent like an entire office hours helping me look at the back end and trying to figure out
That was fun.
logically what some options are. Firebase has some interesting quirks. That is for sure.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
And I appreciated the feedback on our PR. So we could go back and kind of clean things up and, creating the helper function and things like that. So I appreciate the feedback from Jonathan. And I'd also like to, I guess, shout out to Fatima too for just also having, like, I like that we actually had our test plan, like things we were going to test written down instead of just, testing whatever came up when we met up. So I thought that was something that would be good to do going forward. Always just kind of write out the things we're going to test for each PR.
Nice.
Thank you. I'd like to give a shout out to Shalom. It's been really great pairing with Shalom. She's a really good navigator because whenever I'm like working on something and I get stuck, she's always proactively like looking for solutions. So like right when I get stuck, like she already like has like suggestions and like ideas to try out. So it's been really great working with Shalom.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, having a navigator and somebody who's efficient at research is the ball. All right, I am taking notes as we go here. And Shalom, I know you mentioned the second piece there. I believe it was for Fatima in regards to the like testing, just thinking out of things that needed to be tested. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah. So
Yeah,
she wrote out a list of things that we wanted to test with
Nice.
that issue, which I thought was really helpful to have ahead of time so that we know, what we're going to test later on.
Awesome. All right, well, unless y'all have another burning shout out, we can move on to kind of the overall what went well for the week. Things that you felt, maybe processes or procedures or things that can be similar to the ones that you did the shout out, but a little bit less person specific and more process specific items that maybe these are things that we can utilize more or duplicate on and, just kind of help us move forward faster, those kind of items.
Yeah, definitely, like Shalom was saying, that team-wide meeting in the beginning, we should definitely do that again.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I really like the idea of like writing out tests kind of beforehand too. So I think, yeah, it's probably, even though like I wasn't involved with that, I think it's a great idea. So probably implement that like for all teams going forward.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, even if you're not like in a space where you're writing like test-driven development work, but just thinking about the things that you're wanting to go up against and test out at the end just kind of helps guide how you decisions that you make. Anything else from the week? Do you feel like your pairing sessions were productive, or I don't know, just trying to think of things that I would.
I just want to add just having the team meeting also at the beginning of the week, I thought was pretty
Okay.
helpful. And I think this week went pretty smooth, even though we had like that bug at the beginning. But Jordan and Mandy did a good job in taking care of that.
Nice.
Jeez, I forgot about that bug. Well done on finding that
Yeah.
and fixing it. Can I ask a question to the Collabies? Did the pairs after the team-wide meeting, did you kind of communicate with each other? And if you did, how did you do it? And if you didn't, that's totally fine as well. I was just wondering, like, if you ended up using any new like tools, or if you just kind of like just use GitHub.
You mean like to the other team or between the same team?
Yeah, to the other pair.
I don't think.
As in, sorry, between the two pairs, I guess.
Yeah, on my end, I don't think we really talked after the first initial meeting, but maybe the others did.
Nope.
That's cool. I was just wondering, just because I know in the last retro we're talking about using like videos and GitHub comments and stuff like that. So I was just wondering, like, if you end up doing any of that asynchronous stuff.
I think the Monday meeting really helps, like,
Yeah.
mitigate any like back and forth about what the plan was for the week.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
We could have maybe proactively talked about the database structure issues, but I didn't really think there was a whole lot of time to address it either.
Yeah.
Probably put that in where to improve.
I think we did, and we have kind of like casually discussed it for a while now, because clearly it's not ideal, but yeah. Sure, we'll circle back to it.
I think maybe we could also, in addition to having everybody meet up on Monday, maybe on Saturday or somewhere towards the end of the week, we could just meet up and maybe update one another on any issues, maybe just do a short meeting. I don't know if that's, I mean, time-wise, I'm not sure if everybody will be able to do that, but I just thought, because I found that it really does help to kind of meet up with the whole team. So maybe we could do it before and after. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot.
I'll put that in as so the other column that we have running here is the where can we improve. So I think that's a really good place to put that on there. Like, that's a consideration for improvement.
Yeah, would the purpose, Shalom, be to like maybe just go over our work before we merge it, or like what would you envision happening for that meeting?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe go over things before we actually merge it. Like this is, and any issues you run into, or as a team as well. Like, but basically to kind of just get an idea of where both teams are before the merge, I guess.
I see where you're going with that, but I would also argue that perhaps that's what the PR process kind of would have already accomplished. But I leave that up to you guys if you think you need to have a synchronous discussion as well.
Right. And I suppose the weekly sync also kind of does accomplish that as well. So I don't know if that's something that's really not necessary, but yeah.
I think the first time I start to worry about whether I need to reach out to the other pair is when we start getting like some review comments. I'm like, oh, well, because like, I knew right away our review comments, like if we change the database stuff, that's going to definitely affect their work. So that's usually, I guess that maybe we just need to be more proactive, like around that time, if you think it's going to like potentially affect the other team's work. But you know, then it's like a matter of, do you have time to actually address that issue, or are you just kind of noting it for the future? Maybe you're opening an issue instead, if you don't think the work is going to substantially change, you know.
I think opening issue is a good idea. Also think having these conversations, I personally would push these to be asynchronous conversations, like either a Slack thread, like public Slack thread or something, mainly because finding a synchronous meeting time is always going to be hard across time zones. And if you're already having this Monday meeting, you know, Collab Lab doesn't want to take too much of your time. So want to try and avoid like all these synchronous meetings, if possible, or unnecessary synchronous meetings if possible, just so you have that time back in your day. So yeah, I think async Slack status updates, or like a place to discuss these issues, I think is a great idea. But again, I'll totally leave it up to you guys.
Now, we kind of talked about that before too. I think keeping a written history, especially on GitHub, is more convenient for researching the history of a project, like, and why perhaps it's in the state that it's in currently.
Yeah, and that's actually something that I was going to add into here on the where can we improve. I feel like you guys have drifted into the direct message zone, which is very common because I haven't seen a lot of communication between even the individuals on each pair, let alone between pairs for this week. So I'm assuming much of that happened either during your synchronous pairing or through direct messages. But yeah, so just having, even if it's on like a draft PR and updates on kind of what's happening, kind of helps to give each team the opportunity at least to see what the other team is working on.
Yeah, so Shalom and I, like most of like our communication this week was just during like our paired programming, but would it be good to like, I guess at the end of the session when we're able to like, just like put an update of what we did or what we accomplished during our pair programming session on like Slack or GitHub?
I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt. And you do have that pair thread already. So like you could just pop in there real quick and just say, you know, we made it through this part or whatever. And then that way, like in this case, Jordan and Mandy could have popped over there and I don't know, seen where they were at. And then by the time they get ready to review, they kind of already have a sense of what your process was. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I mean, it's nice when the discussions are a little bit more out because then, you know, there's just more awareness. But I do think GitHub is really the best place for it, especially if there's code already up. Because even if all you're doing is pushing a branch, like that is communication, because now I know what you did and where you're at just based off that branch alone. Or even, you know, the most recent commits, like I could take a peek at that if I was the other partner or pair wanting to see like, well, how are they organizing this piece that we're going to need to tap into? And they go over to that draft branch and they see, oh, I see how they did it. They put it in these files and named it this way. So I can utilize that data and without having to communicate to you directly. Anything else that you all maybe thought of that you thought that could use some improvement overall as from the team perspective?
I guess I had a question more for like the mentors. Well, anyone can really chime in, but so originally we opened the PR at the beginning of the week. It was just like to fix the bug that we found, but then it kind of evolved into like the entire issue. With like, you know, we put all the commits like under that same PR. So is that like probably not the ideal way of doing things? Should I have like opened it under a separate like branch name and then had a different PR for like our issue? And then like on your side, when you're checking, do you see like all of our new commits and code and you realize like what's new versus what you are checked? Or is that, I don't know, just kind of the flow on that?
just wanted to chime in. Some really handy tool of GitHub is that if you're, as you're going through reviewing, there's a little checkbox in the top right-hand side, and it says like viewed file. And it's nice, you know, you can review a file and you can click that checkbox and it just collapses it. Great, kind of helps you with that review. But the really cool thing is if you push a change, it'll only uncheck the files that have changed. So then you can just review what's important or what's changed.
Cool. That is good to know.
So yes, there
But
is
as-
a workflow within GitHub that allows
Yeah.
folks to see just the difference.
But as whether we look at one or the other, I mean, to be honest, a lot of these MRs are not very big, so it's fairly easy to look at it all. On the other hand as well, you kind of want to be able to make sure that everything else still fits together. So, you know, if you're reviewing change on, I don't know, your changes, the way you're pushing into Firebase, you know, we'll look from where those queries are getting generated and kind of follow that track all the way through to your change and make sure it makes sense. So that might be some new, some old. I don't know. April, Jonah, what do you?
I feel like the change for the bug was close enough to the work that you were working on that having it all on the same branch wasn't too big of a leap or an issue. I would say if it's like two completely distinct sections of code doing two completely different things and they're both on the same branch, that's when it gets a little bit harder to reason about as a review, and it would be better to split it off. And then again, as Graham said, you know, the PRs themselves aren't a large number of lines of code changes, so that helps as well. You know, if you're dealing with 800 lines of code and you've got two separate concerns in one MR in one thing, that's a little harder to wrap your head around. So.
Yeah, plus one's what April said. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, it was excellent.
All right. Well, I think unless we have anything else more to add to where can we improve, you know, we got a couple of pieces here. Just I think again, you know, normally the retros are 2 weeks apart, so there's a bit more of a body of work and process to kind of make determinations of where things might be sticking or where things might be accelerating and doing really well. And just because of the circumstances, we kind of pushed our retros back to back. So I think the next time in 2 weeks, just kind of keeping in mind as you go and maybe jotting down notes and notations for things that you do notice that went really well, or things that maybe got a little sticky and were, you know, causing friction that we can address at the next retro. And with that, I think we're done.
Yeah, I think Graham for the issues, and then yeah, well done.
Oh yeah, that's right. Gotta go do the issues.
Oh, you're muted, Graham. I'm not sure.
I just said, don't forget
Getting
about
all-
me. I've got everything all prepared for everyone. All right.
And all the Zoom bingo card entries.
All right. So there are 2 issues this week. Assuming that everything is closed and done and that we don't need to do any more work. This week we have 8 and 9. So the first issue, issue 8, is that as a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchased, so the app can learn how often I buy different items. To be clear, I actually find the description here a little bit misleading, as this issue does not contain any actual learning yet. It is just the matter of checking and storing the fact that this thing has been purchased. So specifically, the acceptance criteria on this action is that a user is able to tap a checkbox or similar UI element to mark an item as in the list as purchased. The item should be shown as checked for 24 hours after the purchase is made. So specifically, just be able to check this, say, hey, this is purchased, and have that persist, and have that persist across devices. So you need to be able to store that information. What will that kind of look like? Something kind of like this. And you can see that eggs here is checked, whereas Fluffernutter is not, and neither is jalapeno poppers or any other secret aardvark sauce. Aardvark sauce. I think I'm saying that's right. Yeah. So that's that. The one really big challenge here is, again, a matter of testing. So, how are you actually going to go about and say, hey, this actually does meet all the acceptance criteria in all the different cases? I know we were speaking a little bit about edge cases before, but again, that's going to be very important for this one as well, since we are saving and storing state. Any immediate questions about that so far? I
have a
hear
question.
crickets. Oh, please, yes, Fatima.
So the second acceptance criteria, it says the item should be shown checked for 24 hours after the purchase is made. So after 24 hours, is it supposed to like automatically uncheck?
Depends what I guess you mean by automatically uncheck itself, but after 24 hours since it has been purchased, the front end should no longer show that it is has been purchased. So yes, it should no longer be checked. Yeah. Yes, it will be unchecked.
Okay.
The only quibble there in my mind is that it's not an action to be unchecked. So it's not like a polling worker that runs every hour or whatever to check things, but so there's no action to uncheck it. It's just no longer checked, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Cool.
And then on the
Yes,
wireframe,
please.
it has the each item has a delete button. So it should be are we supposed to be adding that
Let's
functionality too?
take a look.
Believe that's a future issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
issue
right
11.
here, issue 11. As a user, I want to be able to delete items from my shopping list. You'll also notice that there's coloring and other things, so leave that for the moment. Cool. So issue number 9. As a user, I want to filter my shopping list to make it easier to locate an item in the list. And to pop back to the same wireframe that I've opened in 2 tabs, we have the little filter bar up above. And this explicitly is an empty filter, so there's no filtering going on. You can kind of imagine what would happen if I hit the letter E, what would show, what would not show. But specifically, the acceptance criteria for this issue would be to display a text field from above the top of the shopping list. As a user types into the field, the list should narrow to only display items that contain the text the user entered in the filter fields. When the field is text in it, a user should be able to tap a UI element to clear the field. The filter text should match any part of the item name. In other words, not just to start. So here, as I start typing in this field, a little UI element will show up, allow me to clear the filter. For instance, if I hit the letter E, it would start showing me eggs. It would continue to show me fluffernutter because there's an E in here. It should also show me secret, should not show me puppuccino. And it would also continue showing me jalapeno poppers. So in other words, it's not just eggs that would be shown from hitting the letter E. Is that making some sense? Yeah, and finally, they have a link here to this great tool here that shows really what a good example would look like for accessibility purposes. Because remember, you do want these things to be accessible for screen readers. It needs to have all the right ARIA elements on it. It needs to be available and accessible to all. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to assume that we are continuing on with this variation. So this week, it is Mandy and Fatima and Shalom and Jordan. So who wants what? Five, four, three, two, one. All right, I'm going to assign it as we go. So Mandy and Fatima, you guys get number 8. Shalom and Jordan, you guys get number 9. So yeah, Mandy and Fatima. This is this one to Fatima? Carrero, right? Camaro.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. All right, and number 9. Gorgeous. That's all I have
Nice.
for you, unless you've got any questions.
No, I think that's it.
Well
Well,
done.
it's meeting time of 59 minutes and 22 seconds.
You did it.
I have office hours this week, so I'll be putting up some windows for you to choose in the next day or so, and chat with y'all then, hopefully.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, all.
Awesome.
You.
Have a great week, everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Bye.
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 Bye.